I wasn't expecting to see her there. Not in this place, not with sweat slicking the air, the clatter of dumbbells, and the steady hum of treadmills. But there she was, Professor Hale. Only, she didn't look like a professor now. She looked like a woman I'd known too well from a distance, yet not at all. Her hair, once pinned and practical in lectures, fell loose against her shoulders, catching the light in strands of chestnut and silver. She moved with that same poise she had in the classroom, the kind that made silence sharpen when she entered, but there was something unguarded about her here, in leggings and a simple top, water bottle tucked against her side. She saw me before I could look away, and smiled. "You've grown into a man I hardly recognize," she said, her voice low, half surprised, half teasing. I didn't know what to do with my hands. They tightened around the barbell as though it had become an anchor, though it felt absurd, childish almost. She was standing barely 2 feet away, and I could smell the faint trace of lavender lotion beneath the sharper tang of the gym. "You remember me?" I asked, my voice rougher than I meant. Her eyes lingered longer than necessary. "Of course I do. You sat in the back, didn't you? Always scribbling, never looking up." A pause. "But now—" She tilted her head, her gaze sliding over me in a way that made the room suddenly too small. "You look very different." I swallowed hard, caught between her memory of who I was and the reality of who I wanted to be in front of her now. I tried to answer, but the words caught. She closed the gap just slightly, reaching past me to adjust a set of weights on the rack. Her arm brushed mine, only for a second, but it was enough. My skin remembered her more than my mind did. Her movements were calm, controlled, but her hand lingered longer than the adjustment required, fingertips grazing the cold metal, then pulling back with a slowness that felt deliberate. The air was charged, and yet neither of us said it aloud. "Do you come here often?" I asked finally, regretting the cliché the moment it left my mouth. Her laugh was quiet, not mocking, but close to it. "Not often. I usually avoid places like this. But today I thought I'd try." She glanced sideways at me, as if testing my reaction, then let her gaze fall back to the weights. "And you?" "I'm here most evenings." "Most evenings," she repeated softly, her voice trailing like she was rolling the thought around. Silence hung between us, not heavy, but fragile. Like something that might shatter if either of us moved too quickly. I noticed the way her fingers tightened around her water bottle, the faint tremor she masked by lifting it to her lips. I didn't mean to stare, but I did. At the curve of her throat as she swallowed, at the way she avoided my eyes this time, as though realizing she had given me too much already. Then she looked back. Directly. Without hesitation. The kind of look that makes a man forget the noise of the world around him. Before I could say something, anything, the sound of the locker room door swung open behind us, breaking the moment like glass dropped on tile. We both turned, too quickly, like we'd been caught. And in the seconds after, either of us spoke. The door clanged shut, and the spell broke. Someone laughed across the gym, a burst of sound too bright, too ordinary. She cleared her throat lightly, as if brushing away whatever had just passed between us. "I should finish my set." "Of course," I said too quickly. My hands found the barbell again, but my eyes betrayed me, following her as she stepped toward the bench. She moved with precision, not the careless rhythm of someone working out for show, but the kind of discipline you'd expect from a woman who'd spent years mastering control. Yet there was something underneath, in the way she let her hair fall across her face and didn't immediately tuck it back, in the faint hesitation before lowering herself onto the bench. I caught myself staring again, then forced my eyes down. My pulse betrayed me though, thudding too hard, too fast. I remembered her lectures years ago, how I never dared to meet her eyes for more than a second, how she carried authority without effort. I had been just a boy then, fumbling through notes, hoping she wouldn't notice how much space she took up in my mind. And now, here she was. When she rose again, she caught me watching. Instead of scolding me, she only smiled, faint, knowing. "Still so quiet," she said, walking back toward me. "You always were." I tried to laugh. "I listened more than I spoke." She set her water bottle down near mine, too close not to be intentional. Sometimes I wondered what you were thinking back then. I almost told her the truth, that I thought of her far more than I should have. Instead, I said, "You'd have been disappointed." She tilted her head, amused. "I doubt that." Her hand brushed my shoulder as she passed, a light pressure that lingered half a second too long. My muscles tightened under her touch, and she must have felt it because she pulled away quickly, as if reminding herself there was a line neither of us should cross. But the distance didn't erase it. We fell into rhythm. I lifted, she spotted. The closeness was unavoidable. Her hands hovered near the bar, near me, steady and sure. At one point, when I pushed harder than I should have, she steadied the weight with her palms, leaning close. Her breath grazed my cheek. "You've gotten stronger," she murmured. I couldn't answer. My chest wasn't the only thing straining under pressure. Between sets, she sat on the edge of the bench, elbows resting on her knees. I noticed the faint lines at the corners of her eyes, the kind earned not by age alone but by carrying years of something heavier. Loneliness, maybe? Regret. "Do you live nearby?" I asked, trying to mask my curiosity as casual. Her smile was careful. "A few blocks." "Alone." The words slipped out too easily, like she hadn't meant to say it. "Alone." I nodded, pretending not to hold on to it. "I live close too." She looked at me then, really looked, like she was measuring the space that had once been years wide but now felt like inches. "Funny how paths cross again," she said softly. I wanted to tell her it wasn't funny at all, that I'd thought of her more than once over the years, that seeing her here felt less like chance and more like something I'd been waiting for without knowing. Instead, I let the silence hold. When our session ended, she reached for her towel, but her fingers brushed mine where it rested on the bench. Neither of us moved at first. Skin against skin, barely there, and yet it carried more weight than all the sets I'd lifted tonight. Her eyes flicked up to mine, startled by her own hesitation. She pulled back, but not before giving the faintest squeeze, a touch that said everything words couldn't. We stood there, the gym noise blurring around us, two people pretending it was just coincidence, pretending it meant nothing. But as she gathered her things, she let her hand rest briefly on my arm again, softer this time, almost like a promise. And then she whispered, "Maybe I'll see you here again." The next evening, she was there again. I pretended not to expect it, but my chest tightened the moment I spotted her, tying her hair back in front of the mirror, adjusting her wristband with that same composed elegance. She caught my reflection watching and raised a brow, like she'd already guessed I'd been hoping for this. "You keep the same schedule?" she asked. I tried to sound casual. "Guess so." "Convenient," she murmured. We drifted into routine, though it wasn't routine at all. She spotted me, I spotted her. Our movements syncopated, like we'd rehearsed it. Each time she leaned close, her hair brushed against me. Each time I passed her the bar, our fingers overlapped, just a fraction too long. The air between us grew heavy with what neither of us admitted. At one point I sat on the bench, head tilted back after a set. She stood behind me, hands hovering near my shoulders. Without warning, her palms rested gently, firm, grounding. "You tense up too much," she said softly. Her thumbs pressed against the knots near my neck. My breath stuttered. I wanted to lean back, to feel more, but I stayed still. The gym noise faded. It was just her touch, her voice, her warmth bleeding through me. And then, "Hey, man! You here again?" A friend's voice, too loud, too close. I jerked upright. She stepped back quickly, almost guilty. My friend clapped me on the shoulder, oblivious. "Didn't think I'd catch you twice in a row?" His eyes flicked briefly to her, then back to me. "Oh, sorry, am I interrupting?" She smiled politely, mask sliding into place. "Not at all." The moment was gone, scattered like chalk dust. My friend lingered, chatting about nothing, and I forced myself to nod, to laugh. She kept her distance, adjusting weights, though I could feel her silence aimed at me across the room. When he finally left, The absence was a relief. We returned to the bench. The quiet between us this time was sharper, edged with everything we couldn't say. I should go soon, she said, reaching for her towel. Already? My voice cracked slightly. She hesitated, towel still in hand. Her eyes flicked up to mine, long, searching, as though deciding something. Then, slowly, she stepped closer. Too close. Her hip brushed the bench, her hand still holding the towel, her other hand lifting just slightly, like she might rest it against my chest. I didn't move. Couldn't. Her breath was warm against my cheek when she finally spoke. This isn't a good idea. The words contradicted everything her body was saying. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering in my throat. I know. Either of us stepped back. The silence stretched, taut as a wire. My lips parted, not to speak, but because they were already too near hers. Then the shrill tone of a phone vibrating on the bench shattered it. We both startled. She snatched the phone quickly from her bag, answering without looking at me. Yes. I'm coming now, she said, voice low, too steady. She hung up. A beat of silence. Her eyes flicked to mine, soft and raw in a way I hadn't seen before. I have to go, she whispered. But instead of leaving right away, she touched my arm, just once, fingers curling lightly against my skin, and let them stay there a heartbeat longer than she should have. Then she pulled away. And I knew we were already in deeper than either of us had planned. The third night in a row. I knew it wasn't coincidence anymore. She was already there when I arrived, standing at the water fountain, tilting her head back as the stream caught the corner of her lips. My steps slowed, and for a moment I just watched the curve of her throat, the delicate line of her collarbone under her shirt. When she noticed me, she didn't flinch. She smiled, but it was softer this time, edged with something unsaid. You're consistent, she murmured. You too, I said. We worked side by side in near silence. The clink of weights, the faint whir of machines, our breaths rising and falling in tandem. Every movement felt heavier, not from exertion, but from the pull between us. She adjusted a machine, but her fingers brushed mine on the lever. She didn't move away. Neither did I. Finally, she stepped back, exhaling sharply, like she couldn't keep the tension tucked away anymore. This is getting dangerous, she said under her breath. I froze. For who? For both of us. Her eyes cut toward me, sharp, then softening. You don't understand how this looks. How it feels. Then tell me, I said, my voice lower than I expected. Her lips parted, but the words didn't come. Instead, she shook her head, strands of hair slipping loose. Almost without thinking, I reached out and brushed them back from her face. My fingertips grazed her temple, her cheek. She didn't move. Her breath caught audibly, and for a moment we just stood there, my hand lingering against her skin. You shouldn't, she whispered, though she leaned into the touch instead of pulling away. Maybe I should have a long time ago, I murmured. That broke something. She stepped closer, so close I could feel the heat of her body through the thin space between us. Her hand found my chest, not pushing me back, just resting there, trembling. This isn't what you want, she said, though her voice cracked, betraying her. I think it's the only thing I've wanted, I answered. Her eyes flashed with something raw, desire tangled with fear. You're too young. People will talk. She faltered, unable to finish. I bent my head slightly, close enough that my lips hovered near her ear. Let them talk. Her hand tightened on my shirt, pulling me nearer without meaning to. I could feel her breath against my neck, uneven, hurried. For one suspended heartbeat, nothing else existed. Not the gym, not the noise, not the years between us. Just her body leaning into mine, the way her lashes fluttered when she glanced at my mouth, the silent question neither of us had dared to ask until now. Her lips parted, barely a whisper. You'll regret this. I shook my head, my forehead almost touching hers. Not a chance. The gap between us shrank to nothing. I tilted toward her, she didn't move back. Our mouths were close enough that I could feel the faint warmth of her breath. And then, "Excuse me, are you done with this machine?" The voice snapped us apart. A stranger, waiting impatiently. She stepped back instantly, color rising in her cheeks, grabbing her towel as if to anchor herself. "I should go," she said quickly, avoiding my eyes. But as she turned, her hand brushed mine, deliberate, slow. A promise and a warning, both at once. I stood frozen, heart pounding, knowing we just crossed a line we couldn't uncross. And next time, there wouldn't be room left to stop. The next day, I almost convinced myself she wouldn't come. Almost. But when the locker room door opened, she stepped out, hair damp from the shower, cheeks flushed, her gym bag slung over one shoulder. My chest tightened with relief and something heavier. She froze when she saw me waiting. Not surprised, not annoyed, but caught. "You're here early," she said carefully. "I didn't want to miss you." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. Instead, she set her bag down, closer to me than necessary, as though testing how much space she could allow. For a moment, neither of us moved. The faint hum of machines, the distant clang of iron, all of it blurred. "You can't keep looking at me like that," she whispered. "Like what?" "Like you know me." "I do," I said. "More than you think." Her jaw tightened. She turned as if to leave, then stopped. Her fingers curled around the strap of her bag until her knuckles whitened. "I heard what you said yesterday," she murmured, voice almost lost beneath the gym noise. My heart kicked. "What do you mean?" "When you leaned close, you said, 'Let them talk.'" She turned then, her eyes sharp but glistening. "Do you have any idea what that means for me?" I opened my mouth, but she went on, words spilling out like she'd been holding them too long. "I teach at the university still. My colleagues, my students, the whispers." She trailed off, pressing her palm against her forehead. "I've already been through a divorce that nearly gutted me. I can't." Her voice cracked, and she stopped, catching herself. I reached for her hand without thinking. She pulled back at first, but then let my fingers brush hers, just barely, like fire kissing skin. "You think I care about what they'll say?" I asked, lower now, desperate. "You should," she said, almost fierce. "Because I do. Because I've spent years guarding myself, making sure no one sees the cracks. And now—" She stopped again, biting her lip. Her body trembled, not from weakness but from the weight of what she was holding back. I stepped closer. "Now what?" Her shoulders rose with a shaky breath. And then, so quietly I almost didn't catch it. "Now you make me feel like I've been waiting for you." The air left my lungs. Her confession hung between us, raw and dangerous. For a second, she looked terrified of herself, like she wanted to take it back. She stepped away, but the bench behind her caught her, leaving her cornered. I followed, close enough that my knee brushed hers as I sat. "You don't have to say it if you don't mean it," I said. Her eyes met mine, wide, conflicted, burning. "That's the problem. I do mean it." My hand rose slowly, giving her time to stop me. When my fingers tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, she closed her eyes, leaning into the touch with a soft, helpless exhale. The world shrank to the shape of her face under my palm, the warmth of her body leaning an inch too close. "This is insane," she whispered, but her hand came up to grip my wrist, holding me there instead of pushing me away. "I don't care," I said. We were inches apart again, breath mingling, her lips trembling as if caught between protest and surrender. And then, just when I thought she might close the distance, she pushed herself up abruptly, slipping past me. Our shoulders brushed, her body warm and shaking against mine as she walked to the far side of the room. She gripped the edge of the machine, back to me. "If we keep this up, we won't stop," she said, voice ragged. "Then maybe we shouldn't stop," I answered before I could think. She turned halfway, eyes locking with mine, wide and terrified, but alight. And that was the moment I knew, whether she ran or whether she stayed, the line had already been crossed. Next time, there would be no pretending. The gym was nearly empty that night. A quiet hum of machines, the distant rattle of weights, but no one close enough to see us. She was already there, stretching by the mirrored wall. Her reflection caught mine as I walked in, and for a long moment neither of us moved. Finally, she said, "We shouldn't keep doing this." Her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. They lingered too long, tracing me, betraying the truth her words tried to hide. I stepped closer. "Then why are you here?" Her breath hitched. She dropped her gaze, fiddling with the hem of her sleeve like it could shield her. "Because I couldn't stay away." That broke something in both of us. In 2 steps, I was in front of her. She didn't move back. The air between us pulsed, thick with everything unsaid. My chest nearly brushed hers, close enough to feel her warmth, close enough that every small breath she took shivered against me. "You're making this impossible," she whispered. "Or inevitable," I countered. Her eyes flew up to mine, sharp, searching, and then softening, as if she'd finally stopped fighting. I lifted a hand, slow, giving her every chance to turn away. My fingertips brushed the curve of her jaw, tracing lightly, then tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She leaned into it, almost imperceptibly, but enough. Her hand rose too, trembling, resting against my chest. "You don't know what this will cost me." "I don't care about the cost," I said. "Not if it means losing you." Silence. Heavy, thick, suspended. Then she whispered, "Say it again." "I don't care about the cost," I repeated, closer this time, my breath mixing with hers. Her lips parted. She swayed closer, so close that her forehead brushed mine, so close that one tilt, one breath more would erase the line forever. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Me too," I said. Our eyes closed at the same time. For a heartbeat, we hovered, 2 people standing on the edge of ruin and salvation, knowing once we leapt, nothing would ever be the same. And then she made the choice. Her fingers fisted in my shirt, pulling me down, closing the impossible gap. My mouth found hers in a kiss that was desperate, unsteady, years too late. It wasn't polished, wasn't careful. It was raw, human, trembling with everything we'd been holding back. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer still. Mine cupped her face, afraid to let her go. When we finally pulled apart, breasts ragged, her forehead rested against mine. Neither of us spoke at first. The truth hung between us, undeniable, no longer avoidable. She was the one to break the silence. "We can't go back now." "I don't want to," I said, steady this time. Her eyes closed, lashes brushing my cheek as she exhaled. And then she nodded, just once, small but sure. That was all the clarity we needed. We weren't safe. We weren't sensible. But in that moment, we belonged to each other, completely. We didn't go back to the machines after that kiss. Neither of us said much. The weight of what had just happened sat too close, too fragile to poke with words. Instead, we gathered our things and walked outside together. The night air hit cool against my skin, carrying the faint hum of traffic and the smell of rain that hadn't quite fallen. She paused just outside the door, hugging her bag to her chest. I could see the struggle in her eyes, the same walls she'd built for years threatening to rise again. "I should say this was a mistake," she murmured, almost to herself. "You don't believe that?" I said gently. Her lips curved into the smallest, saddest smile. "No. And that's what scares me." I stepped closer, careful but sure. The street lamp overhead cast her face in soft light, glinting against her eyes. "I'm scared too," I admitted. "But I'm not walking away." Her shoulders eased a fraction. The bag slipped down, her arms no longer wrapped around her like armor. And then, almost hesitantly, she let me take her hand. It was warm, trembling at first, but she didn't pull away. Our fingers fit together with a quiet finality, like the answer we'd both been circling toward all along. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," she whispered. "Neither do I," I said. "But I know what tonight feels like." She looked up at me then, and for the first time, there was no hesitation in her gaze. Just honesty. Just us. We walked slowly to her car, hand in hand, every step heavy with unspoken relief. At the door, she stopped and turned toward me. For a heartbeat, I thought she might retreat again, say something that would put the wall back up. Instead, she reached up, brushing her hand across my cheek with a tenderness that undid me more than any kiss could. "You've grown into someone I never expected," she said softly. I leaned into her touch, closing my eyes for a moment. "And you're more than I ever stopped thinking about." Her breath caught, and before I could say more, she pulled me close, not in the desperate way of earlier, but slow, certain, grounding. Her forehead rested against mine, her arms circling me in a long, steady embrace. The world fell quiet. No whispers, no years, no rules, just her heartbeat against my chest, steady and real. When she finally pulled back, she kissed my forehead, light, lingering, almost reverent. Then she smiled, a real one this time, free of fear. "Maybe we don't have to have all the answers tonight," she said. "Maybe not," I agreed. But as we stood there, our hands still intertwined, I knew one thing with complete clarity: whatever doubts lingered, whatever storms would come, we'd already chosen. And for the first time, that choice felt right. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Thought Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?